Welcome, one and all, to the October 14th edition of the Signals from Mars live stream. I'm your host, Victor. Joining me above, we have Jeremy and we have Johan. How is everyone tonight?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Yes.
Cool. So another interesting week in hard rock, metal, new releases today. A bunch of really cool new albums came out. The main ones, I would say, I mean, depending on what your opinion of this band, there's a new Red Hot Chili Peppers album today, the second one this year. There's a new Skid Row album that came out, new Lacuna Coil, which is Comely's XX, Comely's 20th anniversary of that release. New Alter Bridge and Orianthe. I would say are probably the biggest releases. Poppy released an EP that I need to listen to. Bunch of interesting reissues as well. Trouble and POD, and a compilation from the band Gun as well. So there's always good music to be had on a weekly basis. So, and if you're not, if you're still saying that there's no good music anymore, then you're not trying hard enough to find it. But anyway, have any of you guys had a chance to listen to anything that's come out today? Any of these albums interest you guys to check out? Johan, anything that interests you at all out of these or that you've listened to?
Actually, today I haven't done my homework, so I was hoping to listen to you guys and to see what you have to say about these albums, because no, I haven't had the chance. So sorry. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Bad.
That's okay. We still love you, Johan. That's okay. Jeremy, have you had a chance to listen to anything today?
Yeah, I did. I heard quite a few. I listened to the Alter Bridge album while I was working today, and I heard that one, and I listened to the Skid Row album, and I also an album this evening, which what you didn't mention, but I'd like to mention later on. And so there were the four. Of those, I liked all four. I mean, let's face it, it was all nice to hear, some good new music. The Alter Bridge album, if I could just take that first. I'm not a massive like some of the riffs on it. I like some of the songs. I'm not a massive fan of probably yourself. I sort of suffer him a bit when he's playing. I find that the Alter Bridge songs are not as good as the Slash songs overall. So it was a decent enough listen. It's not something I'd buy, but it's as the Skid Row album was exactly as you kind of mentioned last week. Old school rock. It's nothing new to your ears, but it sounds there's a few decent songs on there. It's something that you can sort of play in the background. It's decent sort of hard rock. The Orianthe album I thought was really good. A really cohesive album. I thought it sort of fit together nicely. I thought range to the songs. I've never been a massive fan of her in the past. Not really listened to her properly. I've seen her live with Richie Sambora at Download Festival. She's also a very good singer, and of course, obviously, she looks good. So she's got the three things into a superstar. But I wish sometimes she'd just play a guitar on this particular "Let It Go" like she did on one or two of the songs, because she's really got it guitar-wise. so it's good. And then finally, the Perfect Plan album. That they're really good. They're a little bit like Europe, but they don't have quite the songwriting ability that Europe have. So, and Kent Hilly, the singer, is a really, really good singer, and it's a very enjoyable. It's not quite up to that level. It's not quite up to the Europe level. So they're a decent band, and obviously from Johan's country there, so he'll be proud of that.
Johan, Perfect Plan. How well known are they in Sweden?
Sorry to say, they are not so well known.
Okay.
Perhaps among the metal community, but no, not the band that you perhaps see play or hear about in their community. No. Here in Sweden, no, not the biggest.
Okay. But I mean, is the name of the band, the name Perfect Plan, is it something that you recognize, that you see like on music sites, or that you see in publications or anything like that, or just really never mentioned anywhere?
Sorry to say, but I have seen them, but not so very often. But
Okay.
perhaps I'm not the perfect, perhaps I'm not the perfect guy to tell you but no, I haven't seen them. And I read Blabbermouth and I read the Metal News, but no.
Okay.
And not here in Sweden, no.
Okay.
So sorry to say.
Yeah, and there's so many bands that you guys have. I mean, that's one of the things where it's kind of the opposite with a lot of other countries, where in Sweden, in Finland, in most of Scandinavia, rock music is still being pushed. So maybe Perfect Plan is just one of thousands of bands that are doing similar things. And like Jeremy has said, they're if they're doing, if they're doing something similar to Europe is one of the biggest bands to come out of Sweden. So if people are seeing them as a second-rate Europe, then maybe they're not going to pay that much attention, and they'll just go directly to Europe.
We have a lot of bands, and Sweden and Scandinavia is just a small market. And the Swedish and Scandinavian bands who have some talent, they don't, they push their energy towards, Germany or Austria or countries like that with higher populations. So, it's hard to tell. I think there's a lot of Swedish bands who are bigger in the middle of Europe than here in Sweden. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and what you said makes perfect sense. Germany's the biggest country in Europe.
Yeah.
So you make it in Germany, even if you don't make it in the UK or even the US. If you make it in Germany, you're going to make noise in the US and in the UK. You may not be overly huge, but you could probably make a decent amount of money just by, playing Wacken, playing, certain festivals. So, Jeremy, with the Orianthi, I think you hit the nail right on the head, because the last album, which is also, this is her, if you're not counting the live albums, the new album, which is called, Rock Candy, is her second on Frontiers. And I think the album is really good front to back, where, I posted, I think, one or two singles on Patreon. and they were good, you know. And then I was like, okay, well, the last album had the singles were really stood out, and then the rest of the album was kind of okay, you know, nothing really jumped me, nothing that I remember now. But I listened to the entire album. Her guitar playing was on point, like you said. It was fiery in places where it was like, holy shit, this really showcases what she can do. And it's hard rock, it's blues, it's pop rock. So it's a mixture of different things, which I thought was really good too, because, you know, she's not just trying to, oh, I'm not just going to, you know, do Kenny Wayne Shepherd. I'm not going to just play to the blues crowd. I'm not just going to have modern rock stuff on here. I'm going to have a little of everything. So regardless who my fans are that are going to listen to this, they're going to like it, A. And B, it's also something so that it makes it so that you're not listening to one thing after the other that just sounds the same. So I give her a lot of credit for this album. It sounds really, really good in my opinion. So if you're into rock, if you're, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to add. I mean, it really showcases all her talents. Like you say, there's a broad diversity of sort of songwriting appeal on it, and I think you want to play again, and that makes a good album, doesn't it? You know, you play it today, and you play it again.
Yeah. Okay. And you brought up Alter Bridge before. I really like their first album, and every album after that has got, in my opinion, one or two good songs, and the rest I just kind of don't care about. You know, it seems, I was trying to think of this today because they're seen as a really big band, obviously, because Miles Kennedy is Slash a singer as well. Tried out to, you know, he was one of the rumored replacements for Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin. And I just, you know, his voice just doesn't do it for me. I love them. The music sounds good to me, but the voice just kind of grates me after a while. I know a lot of people that really enjoy this band, but also at the same time, like when they play here and they play in Spain quite a bit, they don't play massive places. You know, they're playing to 1,000 people. You know, they're not playing to big theaters. They're not playing arenas. Alter Bridge in the UK, are they playing big venues?
They do, but they tend to, I think they play with other bands as well.
Right.
So it's not just them, you know, they're quite high up on the festival circuit now. And they do have a following. In fact, there was an interview in a local magazine this week about them, and it was a big spread on them, and it was actually mentioning that about how popular. But they're also sort of they're not sort of you know, they're not, but they are actually quite popular.
Okay. So, Johan, in Sweden, how big is Alter Bridge?
Oh, I can't tell. Obviously, I know the band, but they play, of course, the biggest stage on Sweden Rock, but I can't tell in any other how big venues they play. So I don't know. No. And if they were big, I would have known.
Okay.
The other thing to say about the venue size as well is that you can find out that bands playing maybe at an arena style venue back out a lot of the seats if they don't sell them. So, you know, a band can play in something like Manchester, you know, I don't know, it's up to 20,000 people, maybe less than that. You may get a band in there only fills 8,000 seats, but they'll black out, but make it look as if it's quite full in there.
Right.
So that's the other thing to say. You know, it's difficult to tell the tickets are being sold.
Well, that's what Judas Priest is doing in the U.S. They're playing 20,000 seat arenas, and they're only filling it with like 8 to 12,000 people. So they're blacking out the rest of the venue, so it looks like, you know, the place is mostly full. So you're only seeing the people around you, basically. And as long as you see a crowd of people around you, it looks, you know, like a tremendous show. With the Skid Row, I mentioned this during my Patreon show today. I've listened to it twice between yesterday and today. I've listened to it quite a bit over the last few weeks from the promo copy. But I think these last 2 days where I've been able to get out of the house with it, you know, it's just one of these things, I guess, for me, it's just kind of weird that sometimes if I'm forced to listen to something in front of the computer all the time, where it isn't the same, I don't get the same appreciation as if, you know, I take it out in the car, or maybe I go for a walk and I'm listening to it, where, you know, I'm a little bit more focused on it, I guess. But I think that the album is better than what I initially felt previous, but it's still lacking that like one big hit that you hear and you go, there it is. That's the one. There's, you know, songs that kind of lean towards it. And it's funny because the title track, I think should have been the first song off of the album, because it really has like one of these like fast intros where, and it's high energy. You know, I could perfectly see them playing this as the first song at a show and really getting people into it, you know, and a perfect way to sell the track in the album as well. But yeah, I think, I don't know. If I listen to it a little more, I mean, we're halfway through October. We've got a little bit over, you know, 2 months till we talk about the, you know, our 2022 albums of the year, you know, our favorites of the year. I was thinking today, does this make my top 10? Is it right outside of the top 10? You know, we're at that point where we have to start listening or thinking about stuff like that, like what we've listened to. And again, there's been a lot of good stuff that's come out, in my opinion, a lot of strong music. So we'll see. Let's see. The other thing that I wanted to bring up with the new Lacuna Coil release, bands remaking their own music. Now, we've talked about this a few times, and you know, Johan, we've talked about it with In Flames, for example, with them redoing Clayman, which was a disaster in my opinion.
Yes.
Has there ever been a point in time where a band has redone their music and you go back to that remake as opposed to the original? Jeremy, do you know of anyone where that's happened for you?
I would have said that up to about a few weeks ago, because, as you know, I'm a big fan. Now, Diamond Head have done a remake of the Lightning to the Nations album. They did it with the new single. It was a really good album. They added on a few extras as well, because I didn't have the original album. But only in the past week or so, they've actually brought out a version of the original album. So now you've got the original album and the remake. To be honest, I think I'm now veering towards the original, the remastered, and I don't really now want to get the remake. So the answer to your question is I can't think. If you asked me the question a few weeks ago, I would have told you it would be the Diamond Head one.
Okay, Johan, for you, is there any remake that you can think of that you prefer from a band over an original?
Yes, Stay Hungry, Twisted Sister.
Okay.
No, no, Victor. No, no, no. Now, actually, uh, I I thought of this, but I can't think of any band that made that. Everybody loves the original and the raw,
Right.
even if it's bad. We love that. So no,
Okay.
no. I'm thinking still, but no, not to this point.
Okay.
Do you think? Have you found any?
Well, that's funny because you brought up Still Hungry, the remake of Stay Hungry. And there's okay, so there are some remakes that I think initially, I guess for the novelty, I thought that Still Hungry was good, but it was still missing something. I get it. It's heavier, sounded more modern, but there was something missing about the album, you know? I like the unreleased songs from the 70s that they redid because some of those were interesting to hear, but I'm not sure. What did you want to say, Johan?
Yes, I thought of something.
Okay.
And this is perhaps Jeremy is going to be have something to say about this, but Saxon released some kind of a best of thing a couple of years ago, and they remade Princess of the Night, and the bands played on. And I don't say that it was better, but I think the songs that I mentioned, they made pretty good remakes of Princess of the
Yeah.
Night, and the bands played on. You know
Yeah.
which complication I mean?
Yeah, I do. I think, and the reason is because they're using modern production. It's still Biff singing. It's true to the old tracks, but they make it sound richer because the original recordings are thinner sounding. So I think that's why it comes across better. And I wouldn't mind if Saxon actually did a couple of their full albums. And it'd be interesting to compare them with the originals.
Yeah, I mean there are a few that, for example, George Lynch with Lynch Mob did Revolution, where it was around 2000s, so a lot of bands were really down tuning, changing tunings and different things. So he took some of his Dokken material and some of his earlier Lynch Mob material, and he kind of rearranged the songs with heavier tuning and whatnot. And some of the stuff sounded cool. Some of it just didn't work. Whitesnake, how many times have they recorded Here I Go Again? You know, there's what, like 2-3 versions of that where they've recorded different variations over the years. You have Iron Maiden has done that as well because they've done Charlotte the Harlot with Bruce singing, and is it Prowler's the other one maybe with Bruce singing? I don't remember, but Metal Dan, who we have in the chat, is mentioning that Miles Kennedy holds back Alter Bridge and Slash. He also says Midnight Dynamite, I guess, is a remake. See, I'm not a big Kicks fan, so the only version that I know of Midnight Dynamite is off of the album Midnight Dynamite, so I'm not sure if they redid it. And then he's saying that Still Hungry did not work. So there you go. I mean, it's hard when something has an emotional connection to you and there's nostalgia involved. It's difficult to have, a new version. Even think of live albums, because live albums are a combination of greatest hits and, updated variations of songs. How many newer live albums do you listen to and think, oh man, that live version of that track is just so good. That's the version I'm going to listen to now. That at least for me, that hardly ever happens. There can be times where, and I'll say this, the Halford live album that he did around 2001, the Rock in Rio, where he redid, a bunch of Fight songs, a bunch of Judas Priest songs. That to me is a little different because they're not the same old, okay, sure, he's got Breaking the Law and you've got another thing coming. But at the same time, he's doing obscure songs. So it's kind of cool to hear some of those songs in a live setting, as opposed to maybe getting a Ozzy live album or a Kiss live album where, 14 of 15 songs you've already heard on every other live album that they've released. So, okay. So Metal Dan is clarifying that they redid the album, and let's see, clean vocals can be heard better. Kicks Midnight Dynamite album. Okay. Makes sense. I mean, that's another thing. Well, here's another one. Testament. Testament redid most of their first two albums. And when I had Chuck Billy on years ago, he said that he hates his first two albums. He said that for the most of the band does, because they feel that the production sucks. That if you go back and you listen to albums by Metallica or Megadeth or Slayer or Anthrax or other bands, that the production is timeless, so it makes these songs sound great. And that they also fought in the studio a lot with the producer. I think it may have been Alex Perialis, with regarding the sound on the album, and they didn't get the sound that they wanted. So they re-recorded the songs the way that they wanted them to sound, because they felt that they sounded a lot closer to the live album, or the live, how they play the songs live. So there's that. Johan, have you heard because now this Testament album has like 3 or 4 different names. Originally it was called First Strike Still Deadly, I think. And since then they've changed the title like once or twice. So it's a lot of music off of the first 2 albums, just done at this point 20 years ago, where they re-recorded them. And this is what kind of helped bring the original, or at least bring Alex Skolnick back into the band.
No, I haven't heard it. I'm not the biggest Testament fan, but
Okay.
But I really like Testament. I saw them opening for Maiden at Stockholm in 1990, 91, perhaps. Fear of the Dark tour.
Okay.
Yeah, but since then I like them, but not the biggest fan. But then they released an album, and I can't remember the name of it, a couple of years ago, and it was so good. And Jeremy, you have mentioned that album somewhere.
Oh, is that the one with Rise Up on it?
Yes.
Dark Roots.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Great album. What a metal album.
Yeah.
But there's something, and I said it. I think I said it before in this podcast. There's something about Megadeth. They are so good in everything except writing a hook or a good chorus. They have everything, but they can't make a hit, or at least a small hit. Yeah, that's their problem. But I love the sound of this band. They are so good.
Yeah, I think they've tried, but
Yeah.
it just doesn't happen. So, okay. So there's rumors going around that John 5 has left Rob Zombie's band and that he's replacing Mick Mars in Motley Crue. Obviously, two totally different guitarists. John 5 can play pretty much everything. I would think that he wouldn't have a problem fitting in there, but would people go to see Motley Crue with John 5? I mean, I don't know that that's a selling point for people. Do you guys think that that would work? Jeremy, do you think John 5 with Motley Crue would work?
I'm not massive on John 5. I don't know much about him personally, but you know, I've always thought of Motley Crue as the four together. I don't like the idea. It doesn't sound great to me. You know, being a Motley Crue fan, I want to see Motley Crue, and I don't want to start seeing members leave because I just think, well, Motley Crue are right at the end of the career, and obviously they have had a singer change down the road. I think now it doesn't sound great, but having said that, you could turn up and see him live and perform, and you're concentrating on the songs and having a good time. So who knows? It just sounds a little bit odd to me. And as I say, I don't know a hell of a lot about. He's not something that I've really, taken a huge amount of notes of from here in the UK, really.
Have you ever heard the David Lee Roth album, DLR Band?
Yes. Yeah.
That's John 5.
Okay. Well, sums up the fact that Dave's so in your face, and I've only, it's a long time since I listened, so probably did notice at the time, but never really took it in.
Yeah. So let's see. He's played with Katie Lang. He's played with David Lee Roth. He's recorded other stuff with Dave that hasn't come out yet. I don't know why. But I guess Wolfgang, with everything that he's been saying, would probably lend itself to Dave, for whatever reason, not wanting to put it out. Played with Marilyn Manson, played with Rob Zombie for some time, and done a lot of solo instrumental stuff. I mean, he's a ridiculous player, but I mean, I don't know if that would make fans not want to see them. Do they lose their luster without Mick Mars? So, Johan, do you think Motley Crue with John 5 instead of Mick Mars, is that exciting to you, or does it not matter?
I think it's would not matter, but as Jeremy said, I didn't know who he was either, because I don't think he was a big guy here in Europe. And actually, thanks to Talking Metal back in 2008 or 9, that's the first time I've heard of him.
Okay.
And I still don't know who he is. I don't know who Buckethead is either, to be honest. I know who he is, but that's guys that no.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a European thing. I've not got so used to these names. We've heard of them, but we don't know them. We're not as others are in the metal world, really.
Here's another one. After between Fight and Halford, Rob Halford had a band called Two. The guitarist in Two was John 5 as well. So Two was technically John 5 and Rob Halford, and then there's Ray Riendu, who ended up playing in Halford, came from Two as well, and I don't remember who the drummer was. I mean, they never did any formal touring or anything, but he's John 5 is a sick player. But anyway, we'll see.
I'd rather see Warren DeMartini or something, a guy like that on guitar in Motley Crue, a guy from that period of time.
Yeah.
Some kind of famous guy from that time, like Axl Rose did in AC/DC. Why not?
Right.
Just go.
And is Mick actually leaving because of his ill health? Is it his age?
I have no idea. There really, I mean, it's all been speculation, so we don't know exactly what's going on. But yeah, I'm not sure, but
I guess they've all fallen out again after being on tour for so long and saying they'd stop and then.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was talking to Chris from Decibel Geek the other day on the phone, and I said, hey, maybe Mick has enough, FU money that he can, he says, you know what? I just needed to do this tour. Now I'm retiring. I have enough money to, for the next 20 years, if I live that long. So I'm not putting up with any of these people anymore. I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, but it makes you wonder.
It sounds highly plausible.
Yeah, absolutely. I made a post on Patreon as well earlier this week about the top 600 streaming artists on Spotify. Ryan J. Downey posted about this, or he actually sent the information out on his Stream and Destroy newsletter. And I mean, for the most part, if we look at it's split up into songs that have been streamed over 1 billion times. And I mean, there's Queen, there's 21 Pilots, there's Nirvana, Journey, Guns N' Roses, Panic at the Disco, Maneskin, which surprised me, Linkin Park, AC/DC, Bon Jovi, and Red Hot Chili.
Victor,
yes.
What is TÖP? Stressed Out, TÖP, Heathens.
That's 21 Pilots.
What is that band?
Yeah, well, that's a band that's huge in the US and has like no following or very little following in Europe. I mean, that's a band that, they fall into the John 5 category for me, because living in Europe, I haven't really heard of them. I've heard of them, but I've never really heard their music. So I saw there.
Do you know them?
I have heard the name, but I wouldn't be able to tell you any of their music. No, they're not.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For example, the Panic at the Disco song, High Hopes. I know that song because my kids play that all the time. That song, because it was in a video game, and they have it on in their Apple Music playlist, and they play that song all the time. So that one I know. But 21 Pilots surprised me. I mean, they've got 2 and 3 on this list. They're down for, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They've got the 8th song on here as well. So that really surprised me. But then the other interesting thing is that monthly listens, they're farther down the list than what I expected for having over 1 billion streams. But I guess this is considering last month maybe. But real quickly here, let me just mention this. It's Queen, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Guns N' Roses, Linkin Park, AC/DC, Nirvana, Metallica, Panic at the Disco, Bon Jovi, Green Day, Maneskin, 21 Pilots, Fall Out Boy, Aerosmith, Paramore, Led Zeppelin, Foo Fighters, Journey, Pink Floyd, and Brad's favorite, Machine Gun Kelly. So that to me was interesting. The other thing too, because the next kind of quote unquote big band that I listed here was Kiss. And I listed that for a reason, because a lot of the bands that are beneath them have sold more albums than Kiss has. Kiss has put out a lot of music, but for example, Motley Crue has outsold Kiss. Guns N' Roses has outsold Kiss with Just Appetite for Destruction. So Van Halen has outsold Kiss, so on and so forth. So it's interesting that Kiss is at 12 million to 12.8 million streams. Ghost is right behind them, then Weezer. Scorpions outstreams Van Halen, Slipknot, Black Sabbath, Rammstein, Ozzy Osbourne, Korn, Iron Maiden, Motley Crue, Def Leppard. So that to me is pretty interesting as well. Obviously, Scorpions is a band that is still touring to pretty big houses, I would think. They're touring the US to fairly filled arenas. But also I started to think, because Scorpions, more so than Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and even Judas Priest, have always had radio hits in the US, whether it's No One Like You, Rock You Like a Hurricane, Still Loving You, and even like more quote unquote obscure songs, The Zoo, Holiday, Coast to Coast, Big City Nights, Bad Boys Running Wild. So they have songs that have been played quite a bit on the radio, both in the US and Europe. More so than if you think of Maiden, at least in the US, outside of Run to the Hills, maybe Number of the Beast, not until the 90s that you started hearing The Trooper and Aces High and 2 Minutes to Midnight on regular radio. You know, you had to wait till after 10 o'clock at night to hear this music. So, and Def Leppard, who was enormous in the United States, is behind them. So even with releasing that awesome new album, Diamond Star Halos.
Diamond Shit Halos.
Diamond Shit Halos, yes. So, again, Scorpions released a monster new album this year. And I think that shows. Look at how many people are streaming it. So even if it's, you know, even older fans that are maybe listening to this at work, because I think you also have to factor in the age demographic of the listener. Because I think if you look at a Kiss and an Iron Maiden and bands like that, their demographic is probably listening to their music more on CD than streaming, perhaps. So even for that, for Kiss to be that high, I think is impressive because of that. Because they're outstreaming a lot of their contemporaries. They're also outstreaming, you know, other bands that I would expect to be a lot higher. I mean, if you think about kids are probably the number one streamers out there. Greta Van Fleet, you know, they have a fourth of the number of streams that Kiss does. So that to me was pretty surprising. Alter Bridge is way down that list. You know, there are others. Clutch is way down that list, for example. Ace Frehley, for everyone that says, oh, Kiss needs Ace Frehley to do good or to tour everywhere. Kiss, 12.8 million streams 1 month. Ace Frehley, 775,000 streams. That's a huge difference. So from a business standpoint, as much as I love Ace, doesn't seem like they need Ace to for people to listen to them. You know, the other thing also to take into consideration is that since Ace is mostly playing Kiss music live, he's kind of promoting Kiss as well, more so than his own music. So that's also his fault, but you know. Anyway, what do you guys think of these streaming numbers? Johan?
Oh, I don't know. It's stream. I have no. There's nothing to say, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not part of it, you know. Sorry. No.
No, that's fine.
People listen to good music and bad music, so no,
Absolutely.
I can't comment on that. It's no. Thank you, Jeremy. What do you please tell me if you listen to?
Yeah.
What is your opinion?
Save Johan, Jeremy.
I think there's probably a lot of wants. I think you've mentioned a few. One is whether a band's touring or not. So you've got, let's say that there's only a few thousand people in each place that they play, but 11,000 people at every concert, and out of that 5,000, 3,000 or 4,000 download a song to listen to because they liked what they heard, or there was a track that they heard live, and then they go a bit deeper and they look at back catalogs and listen to more of the music. They're into the band, and it's really popular. So I think touring's a big thing. I think that there is a you're looking at the bands, and you're looking at two generations. So you've got the younger streamers and the older streamers. The older ones being us and bands as well, but not everyone does. I think it's that there's other factors actually be used in an advert that week on TV, and so suddenly Metallica is being used, and then people think, oh, I haven't heard that track for a while, I must download it, and then heck, and I want to play that track. So that there's a lot of different influences, and different places. It can be on adverts, it could be at the cinema, it could be in a film, and it's got music in it, which is by a band like Journey, or you're on a TV singing Journey,
right?
And you're thinking, oh, I love Don't Stop Believing. Then you want to hear their new album, and you want to hear some of the old stuff. There's so many, and it can really influence the numbers into very high numbers and drive something right up. Queen are always up there anyway,
right?
Regardless of whether they're heard or whether they're not. The most popular band.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Don't Stop Believing became huge again, partly because of The Sopranos. I mean, that helped that song shoot up to it's the most purchased digital song of the digital era. That has a lot to do with it. Then they did it on Glee. Then they do it on on Your Got Talents and on Idol this, Idol that. So somebody sees somebody sing that song and, hey, Don't Stop Believing, I want to check it out. And then of course, first thing there is the Journey version. So they check that out, and like you're saying, all right, down the rabbit hole. Let's see what else this band has to offer. So smart marketing on their behalf. So go ahead, Johan.
Yeah, this list is this a list of what everyone listens to?
It's,
or is it just rock?
No, this is just rock. This is just what he's done is he's separated out. He says it in his newsletter. Hard rock, metal, and punkish music is what he picks out. Yeah. Because a lot of times in his newsletter, what he'll do is he'll post pop music, and he mentioned it when I interviewed him because he's managed bands, also done, I believe, PR work and tour managing. And people will say, hey, why aren't we getting, you're not doing your job right because we're not getting the amount of streams or whatever that we're supposed to. And what he's done is, okay, let's compare this to what pop acts are getting. So you're getting, 200,000 streams a week on Spotify. But this pop artist is getting 5 million a week. So within the market, within your niche, you're actually doing really good. But if you compare it to pop music, whoever's on top of the charts, it's really, it's kind of apples and oranges. So to get from being one of, let's say a Maneskin who's come up the ranks the last 2 years. If a band like that all of a sudden says, hey, why aren't we number one everywhere? Number one, you're doing good within rock music, but within all types of music, you're number 200. It's a different, it's a completely different game. So, let's see. Metal Dan is saying, all I do is stream now. Apple Music, download albums for offline. Maybe purchase 1 or 2 CDs a year. Yeah, I stream a lot. I purchase, if I like something enough, I purchase it on vinyl. If the vinyl isn't available, then I'll, get the CD if I really like it. So another thing that I wanted to bring up before we wrap things up here is Bloodstock, which is a festival that's near and dear to Jeremy's heart. He's been there several times. Has begun to announce their 2023 lineup. Jeremy, have you seen anything yet?
No, you're going to enlighten me, hopefully.
Okay, awesome. So at the moment, Friday, the 11th, it says, okay, so August 11th. They've only announced the 11th, 12th, and 13th. They do have an August 10th listed, but no bands listed for that yet. So Friday the 11th, on the Ronnie James Dio stage, is Killswitch Engage, In Flames, Fit for an Autopsy, and I can't read the logo of the last band. On the Sophie Lancaster stage for that day is Whitechapel and Nonpoint. So, Jeremy, does that excite you? Any of those bands?
It's not enough to get me going to all on that day, to be honest. No, I'm not a massive Killswitch Engage.
Okay. Johan, would any of those bands? I mean, I would think maybe In Flames would make you want to go that day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I would go to UK if there were not any bands there. So excellent country. No, but jokes aside, In Flames, great. I haven't listened to Killswitch Engage. And the other bands, Fit for an Autopsy, no. I can't read the last band. But if you're speaking to festivals, summer of 2023, Maiden seems to be going to the festivals next year. So probably we're looking forward to see them at Sweden Rock.
Okay.
That sounds nice. Just a rumor, but I think
they've announced some dates already. They have for Maiden. So we'll get to that in a second. Let's see. So Saturday the 12th, Ronnie James Dio stage is Anthrax, Devil Driver, Knocked Loose, and Sophie Lancaster stage is Zeal and Ardor, King 810, and Trollfest. Jeremy, any of these making you go out to the festival? Okay.
Yeah, Anthrax. I'd like to see Anthrax live. Yeah.
Okay. Johan, Anthrax, any other bands that I just listed interest you?
No, but Anthrax is just enough. Great band.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Sunday the 13th, Megadeth, Decapitated, Sepultura, Ugly Kid Joe, on the Sophie Lancaster stage, On to Others, and Church of Cosmic Skull. Johan has a big smile on his face. Johan?
Yeah, unto others, of course. And Church of Cosmic Skull. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
But absolutely unto others. They are going to perform probably at every festival this summer in Europe.
Okay. Jeremy, any of these pique your interest?
Yeah, well, Megadeth, because the new album's React play live. And also Ugly Kid Joe, I think would be really good. It'd be quite good fun, especially probably on a tea time slot by the sounds of it. So that'll be good.
All right. So here we go. So I try to look up the Maiden tour, and the first 1, 2, 3 links are all ticket scalpers. So, and I know that the excuse is, oh, we're resale sites. Yeah, you're scalpers. StubHub, Ticket Liquidator, and Viagogo. So, all right. So right now, Metal Dan just mentioned that so far, Maiden is just arena shows. So this is what Maiden is doing. So 2 dates in Krakow in Poland at Turan Arena, Zurich, Sweden, Dublin, Ireland for Anthony Mackie, 3 Arena, Glasgow, Scotland, Leeds, First Direct Arena. What type of accent do they have up in Leeds, Jeremy?
Well, it's a Yorkshire accent, isn't it? Yorkshire.
Then the AO Arena in Manchester.
Yep, and I got my tickets today.
There you go. Then down to Nottingham, Birmingham, 2 dates at the O2 Arena in London, Amsterdam, Antwerp, Belgium, Milan, Italy, and Wednesday. Well, it says Wednesday the 2nd through Saturday the 5th, Wacken. So, what does that mean? Maiden's playing every single day at Wacken? Is that, are they going to be playing full albums in their entirety? Let's see if we can make the stars align for Johan. Sweden Rock 2023. Do they have dates yet? From the 7th to the 10th of June.
Yeah.
There are no dates yet before the 13th of June. So it is very possible that Iron Maiden could bring Future Past Tour to Sweden Rock.
I would guess so.
That would be exciting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, to see them there again, absolutely. They were great. I think that the audience at Sweden Rock are hoping for Rammstein, but absolutely, Maiden would be the second best. Absolutely.
How many times have you seen Iron Maiden live?
Over 10, 12, 15, I don't know.
Jeremy? It cut out. What did you say?
4.
4. Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, I can. We can hear you now. I have seen them once. I saw them. I've seen them with Queensryche and Rob Halford opening up. Mm-hmm. So back in 2000. So
yeah.
That sounds a great show. That actually.
Yeah.
That was an awesome show. It was beyond ridiculous. Let's see. So hey, Bill Elam is chiming in. Good to see you as well, Bill. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of the show tonight. I do want to thank Johan and Jeremy for being on. And Brad Dahl just happens to show up as we're closing things. He's forgetting he's on retirement time. Brad, we'll talk to you in a second off air, because then you'll never let us close the show out. 1 second. But anyway, I do want to thank Johan and Jeremy for being here. It is always great to talk to you guys, and become a patron. This first hour every week is the guaranteed hour where we'll be on here, and it will be just patrons talking music, discussing different topics, unless there's someone who insists that I need to interview them during the first hour, and then we may switch things up. But we'll play that by ear. Anyway, want to thank everyone who chimed in: Bill Elam, Metal Dan, Brad Dahl, who's in the green room right now, anyone else who's watching live or listening or watching to the replay. Thank you very much for checking the show out. As I like to say, you could be watching a million or other things or listening to a million other things, but you choose to spend your time with us, and that really means a lot. On that note, we end the show. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next week with maybe an interview or two. We'll see. So, all right. See you guys.
Thank you for watching the Signals from Mars live stream. You can watch the show live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, or check out replays on YouTube. Go to signalsfrommars.com for more information. This concludes our show.